They say that 75% of people who identify as empaths will find themselves entangled with a narcissist. That's not a statistic about bad luck in dating. That's a statistic from the world of victimology. It tells you that a certain type of predator has a finely tuned radar for a certain type of prey. This isn't about destiny or romance. This is about psychological programming. It's a lock and a key. And if you're the empathetic type, the fixer, the healer, the person who feels everything deeply, you need to understand that your very nature sends out a signal. To most people, that signal reads as warmth, compassion, and strength. But to a narcissist, it's a flashing neon sign that says, "Unlimited supply here." They are drawn to your light not to share in its warmth, but to consume it as fuel. In my years of work, I've seen this dynamic play out not just in relationships, but in business partnerships, in families, and in high-stakes interrogations. The pattern is always the same. The narcissist, a psychological black hole, identifies a person radiating emotional energy. The empath, programmed to give and to heal, sees a wounded soul in need of saving. The empath thinks they re-entering a partnership. The narcissist knows they've just secured an asset. It's a trap, but it's an invisible one. It's baited with charm, set with love, and its jaws are lined with psychological hooks so deep that by the time you realize you're caught, you've started to believe the cage is your home. What we're going to do today is switch on the floodlights. We're going to decode this magnetic pull from a forensic perspective, break down the 3 stages of the con, and then I'm going to give you a protocol, a shield, to break the cycle for good. Ask yourself this before we begin. Have you ever felt drawn to someone's pain, believing only you could fix them, only to end up broken yourself? That feeling is the keyhole the narcissist is searching for. The first stage isn't just initial attraction. That's too soft a term. From a strategic standpoint, it's the target assessment. Before a con artist ever makes their move, they study the mark. A narcissist does the same. They don't fall for you, they profile you. And empaths are, frankly, the easiest profiles to read. Your compassion isn't just a feeling you have, it's something you broadcast through micro-expressions, your tone of voice, the way you listen. You have what I call a helper signal, and the narcissist's radar is built to detect it. They will subtly test you in the early stages, what I call the diagnostic phase. They'll share a story of a past hurt, a betrayal, an unfairness they've suffered. They are watching your reaction. Do your eyes soften with pity? Do you lean in? Do you offer words of comfort and support? Every compassionate response is a checkmark on their internal list. You think you're having a moment of connection, they are conducting a resource assessment. Let me tell you about a man I consulted for, a business owner named Robert. He was a generous, good-hearted man who saw the best in everyone. He hired a new manager, a charismatic fellow named Alex, who quickly became his right-hand man. In his first month, Alex confided in Robert about how his previous boss had stolen his ideas and ruined his career. Robert, being an empath, felt a surge of protectiveness. He saw a brilliant, wounded underdog and made it his mission to champion him. He gave Alex more responsibility, more trust, more access. What Robert saw as a mentoring relationship, Alex saw as an infiltration. He was testing the fences. How much would Robert give? How much would he forgive? The answer was, a lot. By the time Alex had embezzled a significant amount of money and vanished, Robert was left wondering how he could have been so blind. He wasn't blind, he was profiled. Alex didn't target the company, he targeted Robert's empathy. The narcissist looks for the person who will see their carefully constructed mask of victimhood and mistake it for a real person. Have you ever been told you were a good listener by someone who then proceeded to dominate every conversation with their own problems? Were you being valued, or were you being assessed? Once you've passed their assessment and they've determined you're a prime source, they initiate stage 2. The intoxication cycle. This isn't a relationship, it's a carefully managed addiction. It begins with love bombing, a phase of intense idealization. They mirror you perfectly, reflecting your dreams, values, and insecurities back at you with astonishing accuracy. They'll tell you they've never met anyone like you, that you understand them in a way no one else ever has. For an empath, who is used to doing all the emotional labor, this is intoxicating. It feels like you finally found your soulmate. But you haven't found a soulmate. You have found a mirror. This phase is designed to get you hooked on the validation they provide. Psychologically, they are flooding your brain with dopamine, creating a powerful high that you will soon crave. Then, just as you're at the peak of this euphoria, the devaluation begins. It starts with a small, cutting remark, a backhanded compliment, a sudden coldness. They create a problem, and then they blame you for it. You, the empath, immediately go into fix-it mode. What did I do wrong? How can I make it better? You work desperately to get back to the idealization phase, and when you do, they reward you with a brief return of the warmth and charm. This pattern of idealized devalue reward is called intermittent reinforcement. It's the same principle that makes slot machines in Vegas so addictive. The unpredictable payout keeps the gambler pulling the lever, convinced the next big win is just around the corner. The narcissist uses your own empathy and desire for harmony as the lever. They train you to associate their happiness with your self-worth, and then they make their happiness an impossible and ever-moving target. I've seen hardened criminals broken in interrogation rooms using less sophisticated versions of this. It is a cycle designed to erode your sense of self until the only reality you trust is the one they are providing. Have you ever been in a relationship where you felt like you were constantly walking on eggshells, alternating between moments of incredible closeness and bewildering distance? That's not passion, that's a strategy. The relentless spin of the intoxication cycle leads to a grim destination. The aftermath. This phase is defined by two powerful psychological phenomena: trauma bonding and what I call the empath S hangover. A trauma bond is a twisted form of loyalty that develops when a victim forms an attachment to their abuser. The intermittent reinforcement, the cycle of abuse followed by kindness, creates a powerful chemical bond in the brain. You become addicted to the abuser, not in spite of the pain, but because of the unpredictable relief from it. You mistake the brief moments of peace for love, and you cling to the hope that if you just try harder, the peace will become permanent. It's a cruel deception, orchestrated by the narcissist and reinforced by your own brain chemistry. Let's talk about a woman named Carol, a nurse. Her entire life was about caring for others. She got involved with a man who was a classic narcissist. He would praise her endlessly for her compassion, then belittle her for being too emotional. He would depend on her for everything, then disappear for days. After he finally discarded her, she was a wreck, but not just from sadness. She was experiencing the empath's hangover. It's a profound state of cognitive dissonance, where your mind is at war with itself. You know this person hurt you terribly, but you can't stop replaying the good times. You blame yourself for the abuse, thinking, if only I had been more patient, more understanding. You feel a deep, physical craving for the person who poisoned you. This hangover is characterized by immense confusion, brain fog, and a complete loss of your own internal compass. The narcissist has spent months or years teaching you to distrust your own reality. When they leave, you are left in the echo chamber they built, with only their distorted voice for company. This is intentional. A confused, self-blaming victim is less likely to expose the abuser and more likely to welcome them back if they decide to return for more supply. Have you ever left a toxic situation only to find yourself missing the person who caused you so much pain? That is not a sign of your weakness, it is evidence of the trauma bond they engineered. For many empaths, the cycle feels endless. But then, something shifts. This is stage 3, the awakening. I don't see this as a breaking point, I see it as a case breaking wide open. It's the moment the mark finally sees the con. It rarely happens because of one big event. It's usually a slow accumulation of evidence. It's the 10th time they've told the same lie with a straight face. It is the moment you see them use the same charm on a waitress that they once used on you. It's the realization that their apologies are never followed by a change in behavior. One day, a small piece of data clicks into place, and the entire picture of the relationship rearranges itself in your mind. The cognitive dissonance shatters, and for the first time, you see the pattern with horrifying clarity. This is the most dangerous moment for the narcissist. Their supply is threatened. Their carefully constructed illusion is failing. This is when their behavior escalates. They might become more controlling, more enraged, or they might launch the most intense love-bombing campaign you've ever seen, promising to change, admitting to some flaws, and begging you to remember the good times. This is a tactic called hoovering, named after the vacuum cleaner. They are trying to suck you back into the cycle. Their mask of the charming wounded soul slips, and you get a glimpse of the cold, desperate emptiness underneath. For the empath, this awakening is a painful but powerful transformation. The realization lands like a punch to the gut. This isn't love, it's consumption. Your innate empathy, which they used as a weapon against you, finally turns into a tool for your own defense. You start to feel empathy for yourself. You recognize your own pain, and a protective instinct you may have forgotten you had kicks in. The chains don't just break. You realize they were made of smoke and mirrors all along. Have you ever had a moment of sudden, undeniable clarity about a person, where all their past actions suddenly made a new, darker kind of sense? That is the beginning of your escape. So why does this trap work so well and so often? To understand that, we have to conduct a forensic analysis of the attraction. This isn't mystical or magical, it's a collision of psychological and neurological programming. Often, the blueprint is laid down in childhood. Many empaths grew up in environments where they had to be hypervigilant to the emotional states of a parent. They learned that their safety and worth depended on their ability to anticipate and manage someone else's feelings. They became expert emotional caretakers. The narcissist, conversely, often grew up feeling unseen or, conversely, overly praised without genuine emotional connection, leading them to develop a grandiose self-image to mask a deep-seated insecurity. The empath is programmed to give care, and the narcissist is programmed to demand it. They are two sides of the same dysfunctional coin. On a neurological level, it's even more fascinating. Empaths are thought to have hyperactive mirror neuron systems. These are the brain cells that allow us to feel what another person is feeling. When you see someone smile, your mirror neurons fire, and you feel a flicker of their joy. The empath's system is on high alert. The narcissist's is the opposite. Brain scans have shown they have reduced activity in the parts of the brain associated with empathy. They literally cannot feel what you feel. They can, however, intellectually recognize your emotions and learn how to mimic them to get what they want. So, the empath is genuinely feeling the narcissist's feigned emotions, while the narcissist is feeling nothing from the empath but is expertly reading the data. The empath sees a soul to be healed. The narcissist sees an open-source emotional code they can easily hack. This creates the perfect psychological storm. It feels like an intense, deep connection, but it's a one-way street. One person is experiencing a genuine emotional symphony, while the other is just reading the sheet music. Do you find yourself making excuses for other people's bad behavior, convinced that underneath it all, they have a good heart? That conviction is the vulnerability the narcissist exploits. Understanding the trap is one thing. Disarming it is another. For that, you need a tactical protocol. We're not going to talk about feelings here, we're going to talk about procedures. I call it the SHIELD protocol. It's a series of active countermeasures to protect your emotional sovereignty. S stands for Spot the Patterns. You have to become a detective in your own life. Stop focusing on their words and their excuses. Look at the raw data. Look for the cycle of idealized devalue reward. Keep a private log if you must. Awareness is the first step to disrupting the pattern. You can't fight an enemy you refuse to see. H is for honor your instincts. Your intuition, your gut feeling, is your most reliable early warning system. The empath has been trained to override this instinct with logic and excuses. Maybe I'm being too sensitive. Or they're just stressed. Stop. That feeling in your stomach that something is wrong is your internal alarm. Do not silence it. Honor it as valid intelligence. I is for implement boundaries. Boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They are clear lines that tell people where you begin and they end. For a narcissist, a person without boundaries is an open door. You must learn to say no without guilt and without explanation. No, I am not available to talk right now. No, I will not accept being spoken to that way. Their predictable reaction will be anger or playing the victim. This is a test. Hold the line. E is for exit strategically. You do not owe an explanation. You do not owe them closure. In cases of serious narcissistic abuse, the safest exit is a clean break. Block them on all platforms. Inform trusted friends of your plan. Do not get drawn into a final dramatic confrontation, which is just another opportunity for them to manipulate you. L is for learn the lessons. After you are safe, you must perform an after-action review. What were the specific red flags you initially ignored? What insecurities of your own did they exploit? This isn't about blaming yourself, it's about identifying your vulnerabilities so you can reinforce them. D is for develop discernment. Finally, you must learn the difference between genuine compassion and self-destructive empathy. Discernment is the ability to see the person behind the mask, to offer compassion from a safe distance without getting entangled in their chaos. It's the shift from being a rescuer to being a wise observer. Which one of these steps feels the most difficult for you to implement right now? That's where you need to start. The final phase isn't about recovery, it's about a transformation. The goal is not to stop being an empath. That's like asking a bloodhound to stop having a sense of smell. Your sensitivity is not a flaw, it's a finely tuned piece of equipment. The problem is you've been letting everyone else use it. The journey out of the narcissistic trap is about reclaiming that equipment and learning to use it for your own benefit. The person who emerges from this ordeal is not the same one who went in. The naive, boundaryless empath becomes what I call a veteran. You are still kind, still compassionate, but your kindness is now fused with wisdom. Your empathy is no longer just a receiver, it's also a scanner, capable of detecting deception and manipulation from a mile away. This transformation requires you to do something that feels alien to most empaths. You must become selfish. Not in a narcissistic way, but in a self-preservation way. You must learn to put your own emotional well-being first. You must build your self-worth from the inside out, so that you no longer need external validation from anyone, especially not from a charming but empty stranger. You learn to protect your energy, to recognize red flags immediately, and to walk away from anyone who doesn't respect your boundaries. You stop seeing broken people as projects and start seeing them as cautionary tales. The greatest irony is that by becoming selfish in this way, your ability to genuinely help others increases tenfold. You can no longer be used, so your energy is now a resource you can choose to give freely, but wisely. You are no longer a victim. You are a survivor, and your scars are a map that can help guide others out of the darkness. Your greatest vulnerability has been forged into your greatest strength.